The tale starts a long, long time ago, prior to the courtroom, prior to the rumors of lawsuits and betrayal. It starts within a quiet living room in Flagstaff, the one the world had witnessed 100 times on television. The Brown family had once represented harmony, shared dreams and faith. But that evening, even the walls were weary of keeping their secrets. Christine sat on the couch, her hands shaking as she folded a stack of papers, legal documents, divorce filings, bank statements, all jumbled into one sorrowful reality. Janelle stood with arms crossed at the window, eyes red. Robyn attempted to chime in, but her voice crumbled. "Kody, we can make this right," she whispered. But Kody did not respond. He simply glared into the fire, his jaw clenched, his image dancing in the flames. Once, his presence had demanded respect, now it was weighted with regret. He broke his silence, his voice flat and remote. "You all believe I'm the bad guy. But none of you ever comprehended the pressure I bear." Christine's voice trembled. "Pressure? Or control, Kody? Because that's what it's always been about, your control." The room seemed smaller afterward. Years of silently seething resentment had finally found a voice. Weeks went by, and the chasm between them expanded. The cameras ceased to roll, but the drama did not. Attorneys were consulted behind the scenes. Papers were written. And then, one morning, Kody had a letter. He opened it deliberately, his shaking fingers. What he found inside was a court order. Christine was suing him, emotional and financial abuse. Janelle gasped when she heard. Mary wouldn't believe it. Robyn attempted to intervene, calling Christine late one evening and pleading with her to change her mind. But Christine's voice was flat, almost detached. "It isn't revenge, Robyn. It's justice. We trusted him with everything, and he used it against us." The news traveled quickly. Social media went wild, Kody Brown sued by former wife Christine. The headlines were all over the place. Fans were torn. Some said she was brave, others said she was bitter. But nobody had any idea what really went down behind closed doors. Alone in Kody's house, Robyn sat scrolling through the news on her phone. Tears filled her eyes. She still loved him, but even she couldn't deny the cracks in his story anymore. "You promised us forever," she whispered to the empty room. Kody held an emergency family meeting that night, the kind they used to have when times were hard. But this time, no one showed up. He sat, waiting, an empty seat for every wife who once thought he was trustworthy. As the trial date drew near, the mood in Flagstaff changed. The quiet town was infested with journalists. Cafes around town hummed with rumors. "Did you hear? They're actually suing him." Christine maintained a low profile, concentrating on her daughters. She explained to them, "We're not doing this to hurt him. We're doing this to heal." But late at night, once the cameras were no longer rolling and her daughters were resting, she would sit in front of the window, holding a photograph of the family, the smiles, the laughter, the illusion. And softly, she would say, "Why did you make me do this, Kody?" In the meantime, Robyn was conflicted. She knew what was true, or at least half of it. She knew the money transfers, the secret accounts, the scheming. But she also knew what would ensue if she did speak up. The family would never forgive her. Her nights were restless. The burden of loyalty and shame weighed on her chest like a boulder. Then came the breaking point. It was a Sunday afternoon when Kody arrived at Christine's home, unscheduled, angry, desperate. Cameras weren't present to record it, but if they had been, it would have been one of the most explosive moments in sister-wives history. He pounded on the door until she answered. "What do you think you're doing, Christine?" he bellowed. "You want to ruin me? After all I've built for this family?" Christine didn't blink. "You created it for yourself, Kody. We were only there to pretty it up." "Drop the act of innocence," he growled. "You enjoyed the publicity, the recognition. You think this court drama will turn you into a hero?" Her voice was firm despite the tears in her eyes. No. But it might finally hold you accountable. The silence that ensued was deafening. For the first time, Kody had no answer. He simply turned back and went away. The following morning, Christine was called by her lawyer. The case was now proceeding. The date for trial was set. Kody, meanwhile, tried to regain control of the public narrative. He appeared on a podcast, his tone defensive. "People think I'm the bad guy," he said. "But no one talks about how fame changes people, even the ones closest to you." But deep down, he knew it was more than that. It wasn't fame that ruined them. It was ego, pride, and secrets. Robyn watched the interview from home, tears streaming down her face. "You're still lying," she whispered at the screen. "Even now." As the date of the trial neared, every member of the Brown family felt the pressure. Janelle distanced herself from everyone, exhausted by the drama. Mary wrestled with guilt, torn between empathy and resentment. And Robyn, for the first time, began to consider testifying. She recorded that evening in her journal, "Maybe telling the truth isn't betrayal. Maybe it's finally freedom." The drama was laid. The family who once stood united in belief were now polarized in law. Reporters slept outside the courthouse. Fans argued every rumor on the internet. The world was ready for the drama, but none were ready for the truth. As the camera pans across the courtroom, Christine on one side, Kody on the other, you can almost sense the years of love, anger, and silence crashing together in one room. The judge calls the court into session. The attorneys stand. Robyn sits in the back row of the courtroom, her hands trembling. The first witness is sworn in, and the truth starts to unravel. The trial of Kody Brown has begun. The courthouse loomed as a monument to justice, tall and cold, its corridors echoing with hushed whispers. Cameras swarmed the steps. Reporters yelled questions, their microphones thrust out like spears pointed at each Brown family member. When Christine emerged from the car, the cacophony turned thunderous. She didn't respond to a single question. She merely raised her chin and walked directly through the glass doors. Inside, the atmosphere was tense as a knife. The wooden benches groaned as individuals found their seats, the aroma of coffee and paper scenting the hall. The clerk spoke up to silence, "All rise." Everyone rose when the judge walked in, gray-headed, serious, burdened with what this case meant to millions gathered outside. Kody sat at the defense table, jaw clenched, fingers knotted. On the opposite side of him, Christine breathed out slowly, her eyes glued to the table, not his. Between them, love built over years had cemented itself into lawyers' distance. Opening statements started. Christine's attorney, a quiet, resolute woman named Linda Harrow, began. Her voice was a steady hum, more matronly than anything else, yet every sentence punched like a hammer. "This is not a tale of jealousy or fame," she declared. "This is about trust, betrayed within a family that professed oneness while concealing manipulation and economic dishonesty. My client does not ask for revenge, only truth." All eyes turned to Kody. He didn't flinch. When it was his turn, his attorney, Greg Moore, stood up with a sneer that missed his eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen, you will hear tales, sensational ones, moving ones. But bear in mind, television is not fact. Families bicker, individuals embellish. We are here because someone is trying to rewrite the past." The judge nodded. The trial was formally underway. Christine called her first witness, Janelle. As she ascended into the witness box, the audience rustled. She appeared uneasy but determined. "I didn't want to be here," she spoke quietly. "But after all this, I couldn't remain quiet." Linda led her gently. "Tell us, Janelle, what compelled you to speak up finally?" Tears sparkled in her eyes. "Because I saw what it was doing to Christine. I saw the fear in her children's eyes when bills were not paid, yet money continued to disappear. And when I confronted Kody, he said, 'You wouldn't understand leadership.' That's when I realized something was horribly wrong." The courtroom was abuzz. Kody's attorney protested, but the judge dismissed it. Next was Robyn. Everyone knew this would be the most difficult testimony. She was the wife who remained, the wife the world referred to as the favorite. The cameras snapped constantly as she made her way to the stand. Her hands shook as she swore under oath. Kody and we had everything together, she started, her voice tiny. But once the show got bigger, he began to divide up the money, his accounts, the accounts of the family. I didn't ask him about it at first. She gazed downward, guilt rife in her eyes. Maybe I didn't want to know. Linda inched closer. Mrs. Brown, are you telling me you knew about these separate accounts? Robyn nodded weakly. Yes. And late one evening, I heard a call. He instructed a producer not to produce certain documents on the show. He said it would destroy the family image. Gasps spread through the courtroom. Kody squirmed uncomfortably. His attorney leapt to his feet. Objection, hearsay. The judge deliberated, then replied, overruled. Go on. Robyn's voice broke. He wasn't saving the family. He was saving himself. The air was charged with tension. With each new witness, another shard of Kody's carefully constructed facade began to fall away. Then, just when people were certain they'd heard enough, Linda turned toward the screen in the courtroom. Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to introduce an audio recording into evidence. Kody's attorney frowned. We haven't seen, but too late. The judge inclined his head, and the speakers sprang to life. The tape was started with laughter, laughter of familiar voices, the clink of dinner plates, and a soft echo of family talk. Then Kody's voice, they'll never leave. They need me too much. As long as they believe I'm the key to heaven, they'll follow anything I say. A room full of gasps. Christine closed her eyes, anguish crossing her features. Robyn covered her mouth, stunned. Janelle's eyes welled up, and she cried uncontested. The lawyer of Kody yelled out, it's out of context. But it was too late. The judge ordered a brief recess, but nobody budged. The audience murmured in shock. Even the reporters outside stopped, hearing the news ripple on live feeds. Leaked recording reveals Kody Brown's off-the-record comments. In the corridor, Christine leaned against the wall, gasping. Linda put a hand on her shoulder. You okay? Christine nodded slowly. I thought listening to it again would make me feel better, but it still hurts. Down the hall, Robyn sat on a bench, trembling. When Kody passed by, she attempted to speak. You said you were protecting us. He kept walking. The bailiff called everyone back inside. The judge's gavel hit the desk. Order in the court. We'll proceed with cross-examination. Kody's lawyer tried to regain ground. He stood tall, smirking slightly. Mrs. Brown, he said to Christine, you've had disagreements with my client for hours stretched into the afternoon. Reporters filed their stories in real time. Twitter exploded with hashtags. But inside the courtroom, the emotional storm grew heavier. Linda called a last witness of the day, one no one anticipated, Mary Brown. She hadn't spoken out in months. When she appeared, even Kody looked startled. Mary dodged his eyes, heading directly to the stand. I said to myself I'd never get caught up, she started. But then I realized silence makes you part of the lie. Her voice shook, but she went on. There were things Kody had us sign, contracts, property agreements, even NDAs for the show. We had no idea what they really said. He said it was for family protection. I thought he was telling me the truth. Linda offered her a sheet of paper. Is that your signature? Yes. And did you have any idea this contract granted Mr. Brown complete ownership of all of our joint property? Mary's lip trembled. No. I didn't. Kody buried his face in his hands. The courtroom fell silent. The judge let out a heavy sigh and said, Court will recess for today. We continue tomorrow at 9. The gavel slammed once, booming like thunder. As folks exited, Robyn stayed behind. She glared at Christine, then Kody, detracted by the two halves of her heart. Christine nodded curtly, nearly forgiving. But Robyn couldn't look at her. Outside, cameras flashed once more, but Christine didn't quit. She merely whispered to her attorney, "Tomorrow's the real storm." Linda spoke softly, "Then let it rain, years. Can it not be that this lawsuit is personal? A means of embarrassing him publicly?" Christine did not hesitate. "If I wished to embarrass him, I'd have done so years ago. I merely want the truth." The attorney pushed on. "And yet you remained silent all those years. Why come forward now?" She gazed straight at Kody. "Because I finally wasn't afraid anymore." A shocked silence settled over the courtroom. The courthouse the next morning was different. The people waiting outside had doubled overnight, reporters, fans, and critics all waiting for the same thing, the tape. It was rumored that there was another recording, something even more incriminating than what had been heard the day before. Christine came early, relaxed but obviously anxious. She wore the same silver necklace she'd had in her first wedding picture, almost like she was trying to get back to her old self. Robyn came in quietly, slipping past the cameras. She was white, far away, like she hadn't slept in a week. And Kody, he looked like a man who didn't have any more corners to turn. His lawyer's characteristic confidence had given way to reluctant quiet. Inside, the judge came in. "We will now resume the hearing. The plaintiff can proceed with fresh evidence." Linda Harrow, the lawyer for Christine, stood firm. "Your Honor, we have received a new tape, a confession, made subsequently to the events which have already been testified about." Kody's lawyer leaped up. "Objection. We were not given notice." The judge held up a hand. "Overruled. Roll the tape." The lights in the courtroom faded. The screen came on. At first, nothing but static. Then Kody's voice, clear, composed, and terrifying. "You know what? They'll never get what it takes to hold a family like this together. Sometimes you lie for peace. Sometimes, you take what's yours before anyone else does." The room came to a standstill. Even the court reporter's fingers were still on the keyboard. Then another voice, Robyn's. Whispery, uncertain. "Never mind Christine and Janelle. They don't need to know about the account, they wouldn't get it right," Kody said abruptly. "I'm doing this to protect all of you." Christine paled. Robyn clapped her hand over her mouth, shaking. The tape went on. You could hear distant background sounds, doors slamming, papers rustling, a baby crying somewhere. The tone was relaxed, nearly family-like, which only made it worse. Kody's tone hardened. "I'm sick of everyone playing the victim. I gave them everything. The homes, the celebrity, the fame. Without me, they're nothing." The courtroom filled with shocked gasps. The judge sat back, furrowing his brow. The lawyer halted the recording. That which followed was oppressive silence. Linda faced Kody. "Mr. Brown, is that you on the recording?" He faltered. "It sounds like me, yes." "So, you confess to manipulating your wives and hiding family finances in your name?" Kody's attorney mumbled something, but Kody paid no attention. He stared straight at Christine. "You wanted the truth. There it is. I hid it because I knew you'd ruin what we created." Christine shook her head, tears running down her face. "What we created? Or what you manipulated?" Robyn was torn in two. Her first day testimony now lay before the judge like a confession she'd never known she'd given. She muttered to herself, "I didn't know he taped that." The judge ordered a brief recess, but the tension in the courtroom would not abate. The audience murmured. Reporters clacked away. Outside, social media exploded, hashtags trending worldwide, hashtag Kody confession tape, hashtag sisterwives trial, hashtag truth or loyalty. During the break, Christine sat with Linda in the hallway. "I didn't expect to hear that," she said quietly. He sounded like a stranger. Linda nodded. People reveal their true selves when they think no one's listening. At the far end of the hall, Robyn sat alone, sobbing silently. Kody tried to approach her, but she stood up, shaking her head. You told me you were defending us, she cried. But you were defending yourself. He took a step toward her, but she pulled away. Robyn, hear me out. You have no idea how much I've lost. She regarded him icily. We all lost, Kody. You just ensured that you lost last. When the trial continued, the atmosphere was changed. It wasn't a trial anymore, now it was exposure. Linda pressed on. Mr. Brown, do you deny having access to several undisclosed accounts in your production company's name? Kody paused. I had accounts for business purposes. But you transferred funds designated as family property, did you not? I used what was needed for maintenance, he snapped. Maintenance? Linda repeated, raising an eyebrow. $70,000 transfers over 3 months. Kody glared. You don't know what it takes to manage a family of 20. The courtroom hummed. Even the judge was leaning forward, clearly agitated, then came the surprise nobody anticipated. Linda called her next witness, a digital forensic expert. He described how the tape was verified, how timestamps, device IDs, and metadata verified its authenticity. But that wasn't everything. He also recovered deleted files. When he plugged in the laptop to the screen, the whole courtroom leaned forward. They came one by one, more and more recordings, dozens of tiny audio files, some seconds long, others minutes. In one, Kody's voice boasted, if the contracts ever tank, I have everything in my name. They won't touch me. In another, a producer's voice stated, Kody, the wives are inquiring about splits again. Tell them it's complicated, Kody responded. They'll give up. Gasps filled the air. Robyn buried her face, crying silently. Christine couldn't bear to look at the screen any longer. Linda paused the replay. Your Honor, this is not mere emotional manipulation. This is financial fraud in the name of religion. The judge nodded sternly. Mr. Brown, these are very grave charges. Kody canted forward, cracking his mask. You don't get it. They'd be nothing without me. The show, the fame, the fortune, it was all me. His words rang out in the courtroom. Even he looked taken aback by it. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. Christine sat in silence, wiping away tears, but she no longer looked broken. She looked strong. Meanwhile, Robyn stood up abruptly. She trembled as she spoke, but her words were distinct. Your Honor, I need to say something. The courtroom went silent once again. Kody's attorney attempted to interrupt, but the judge waved for her to go on. Robyn took a deep breath. I have my own recordings. Kody and the network producer's conversations. She dropped a USB drive into his hand. I didn't intend to use them, but having heard that tape, I can't remain silent. Kody's face turned white. Robyn, what are you doing? She didn't reply. The judge instructed the new documents to be filed. Linda smiled weakly, the smile that spoke volumes. Everything was about to shift. While the court recessed for the day, pandemonium broke outside. Journalists hurled questions. Followers wept, some with anger, others with devastation. The previously unshakable image of Kody Brown, the self-assured patriarch, the man of conviction, was deteriorating live on television. Christine slipped away quietly, accompanied by her attorney. But Robyn lingered momentarily, peering through the glass door of the courtroom at Kody alone. He glanced up, their gazes for the final time locked. And in that glance, all between them, love and loyalty and lies, fell into silence. Robyn breathed softly, you could have been honest before it all fell apart. Then she turned away. Kody remained still, gazing at the vacant bench Christine had recently occupied. The following day would determine everything. The next day, the courthouse was more subdued than normal, but only externally. Inside, you could sense it, the tension thick enough to cut through. Reporters were hushed, cameras flashed, and all eyes waited for one thing: what was on Robyn's USB drive. It was no longer just evidence. It was a bomb waiting to blow. Christine entered first, her face calm but unreadable. She'd spent years preparing herself to walk away from Kody, but never like this. Robyn arrived shortly after, clutching the small silver cross around her neck. Her eyes were red, swollen from the night before. She looked like someone who'd made peace with a painful decision. And then Kody appeared, stiff shoulders, chin up, as if the world were still his. But cracks were evident. He never glanced Robyn's way. When the judge brought the courtroom to order, you could have sworn every heartbeat off the wooden walls. "Your Honor," Christine's attorney, Linda Harrow, replied, her voice even but firm, "we have received the documents handed over by Mrs. Robyn Brown. They comprise of dialogues between the defendant, Kody Brown, and several producers of Sister Wives. These recordings cast new light on the intent and control Mr. Brown had on his family, along with his financial motives." Kody's attorney was quick to object. "Objection. The documents have not been authenticated." Linda nodded serenely to the judge. "They were filed last night and authenticated by our digital staff. The metadata verify their authenticity." The judge nodded. "Go on." The lights lowered. The big courtroom screen flickered to life. The first recording played, Kody's voice, once again unmistakable. But this time, he was not fuming. He sounded calculating. "Listen, as long as the story makes me out to be the struggling husband trying to hold his family together, the audience remains engaged. Don't switch sympathy to Christine too soon. We need her to appear unreasonable." A stinging gasp was shared throughout the room. The voice of the producer responded, "But Kody, folks online are beginning to sympathize with her. They view her as the one who's been abused." Kody laughed. "Then let them. It creates suspense. When I forgive her later, it makes me more powerful. Roll with that." Christine gazed uncomprehendingly at the screen, her lips quivering. You could see all the memories going through her head, every scene, every interview, questioning if any of it was real. The next tape was worse. Robyn's voice came into the debate. "I don't think it's right, Kody. The others are genuinely hurting. They feel you're cutting them out." "Robyn, we're the face of the program now," said Kody in a condescending tone. "You and I keep the audience entertained. The others are just background. You want security for your children, don't you? Then go along." Robyn hid behind her hands in court, silently sobbing. Her words were heard through the speakers, reliving her own remorse. Linda stopped the video. "Mrs. Brown," she said softly, "why did you decide to release these tapes now?" Robyn dried her tears. "Because I trusted him. I trusted all that he had to say about family and about coming together and about God. But last night, when I heard that recording, I saw he wasn't shielding anyone. He was shielding his reputation." She gazed at Kody, eyes brimming with sorrow. "You made us characters in your story, Kody. Not people." Kody's attorney whispered to him to remain calm, but his tolerance had vanished. He leaned forward, trembling voice. "You're lying, Robyn. You don't know what you're saying." But Robyn didn't blink. "I know exactly what I'm saying. You taught me to lie for peace. I just finally learned to tell the truth for my own sanity." The next file started up automatically. The screen showed timestamps from 3 years before, just before Christine left the family. Kody's voice again. "Fine, Christine walks. We'll frame it as her being unstable, requiring space. That gets people talking. Then we shift attention to Robyn's loyalty, it'll draw sympathy back." "But what about the children?" one producer asked. "Won't that seem callous?" "Not if I declare I'm devastated," Kody said. "They believe it. They always do." Christine released a gentle gasp. It wasn't rage, it was sadness. You could see it in her face. She wasn't merely hearing an admission, she was seeing years of affection reworked into tactic. Kody's attorney attempted to shut off the recording, but the judge raised a hand. Let it play. The recording continued. We'll cut it to make her departure look like my ultimate test. I'll cry if I must. The public devours that. Then came the line that muffled even the court stenographer, they believe this family exists. It's TV, not reality. The courtroom was so still, you could hear the air conditioner humming. Christine slowly turned to Kody. Television, not truth, she breathed. That's all we were to you. He didn't respond. His silence spoke volumes. After the tapes were over, Linda addressed the judge. Your Honor, these records establish that Mr. Brown systematically manipulated his family and the public for financial and personal reasons. He misled his wives into signing contracts under deception. This is no longer a family issue, it's corporate exploitation. Kody's attorney attempted to rebut, but Kody pounded his fists on the table. Enough. You think I'm the only one who played along? They all did. They relished the glory, the fortune. Don't play dumb now. Robyn rose from her seat, shaking her head. No, Kody. We loved you. The show was supposed to depict our life, not ruin it. He faced Christine. And you, don't try to deny you loved being in the limelight. You could have left at any time. Christine broke her silence, her tone quiet but deadly. I did. But you followed me here, didn't you? Because you can't bear losing control. The judge banged the gavel. Order. But the drama was unrestrainable. Fans in the audience were weeping, whispering. Some even yelled, "Justice for Christine." The judge warned for silence once more. Outside of the courtroom, reporters swarmed, awaiting updates. Social media went crazy again. Hashtags went trending worldwide. Hashtag Kody exposed, hashtag Christine speaks truth, hashtag Robyn betrayal. Excerpts of the recordings went viral, people dissecting every word, every tone, every hesitation. In one night, the narrative that had been so carefully constructed for years dissolved entirely. Inside again, the judge ordered closing arguments to be ready for the following day. As people began to gather their things, Robyn moved towards Christine at a deliberate pace. Christine, she whispered, I'm sorry. For all of it. I didn't know how much of it was a lie until it was too late. Christine regarded her, exhausted but gentle. I know. We all thought he told the truth. But now we don't have to believe it anymore. They shared a long, agonized look, a silent pardon between two women who had once viewed each other as adversaries. Kody remained seated well after everyone had departed. His lawyer spoke low, we can appeal this still. But Kody did not answer. His eyes were far away, glassy, like a man gazing at the wreckage of his own kingdom. The one-time proud father of sister wives was now merely another man under scrutiny, not by fans, not by cameras, but by truth itself. He grabbed a paper off the table, Christine's legal affidavit, and quoted the final line aloud to himself, what's built on lies cannot stand in truth. He balled it up in his hand, but the words rang through anyway. Outdoors, the crowd cheered. The news anchors screamed. But indoors, Kody sat alone, no wives, no cameras, no crowd. Only quiet. And in that quiet, for the first time in years, Kody Brown had nothing left to control. The following morning, the courthouse buzzed more than ever. It was Judgment Day. Outside, the gathering was agitated, fans and critics and reporters all ready to hear the verdict that would determine the destiny of Sister Wives' most scandalous man. Cameras snapped, microphones in line, and banners flowed with messages reading, Justice for Christine, and Truth over Fame. Inside, another world existed. Quiet fear bounced off the walls. The air clung to a hint of coffee, old books, and something more substantial, the feeling of finality. Christine sat close to the front, her palms resting in her lap. She no longer shook. Her quiet wasn't weakness, it was tranquility. Robyn sat 2 seats down from her, her head hung low. Janelle murmured a brief prayer to herself. And then Kody came in. He appeared different now, exhausted, nearly unrecognizable. The cockiness that used to permeate every part of him had broken. His hair was a mess, his tie loose. For the first time, he resembled less a man fighting for his reputation and more like a man who knows it's already lost. The judge came in. Everyone stood. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patterson. The courtroom went quiet. You could hear paper rustling, the soft buzz of overhead lights, and the collective breath of hundreds of individuals suspending time. Judge Patterson cleared his throat. Before I make my ruling, I want to say that this case isn't simply about money, fame, and contracts. It's about a family, one that lost their way in the limelight. He stopped, allowing the words to penetrate. Kody's attorney rose. Your Honor, my client acknowledges that there have been judgments made that were in error, but none of them criminal in nature. He has been unfairly characterized by edited footage and emotive testimony. This court needs to distinguish emotion from verdict. Christine's attorney, Linda, replied with cool clarity. Your Honor, this case isn't founded on emotion, it's founded on fact. The tapes, agreements, and bank records establish intent to manipulate, exploit, and coerce. The women in this courtroom today were not co-stars on a TV show, they were victims of control masquerading as love. The judge nodded. I've reviewed all evidence, including Mrs. Robyn Brown's recordings. I've considered the testimony of Mrs. Christine Brown and Mrs. Janelle Brown, and I've examined the financial disclosures from TLC's production team. Based on this evidence, the court finds. Kody clenched his fists under the table. Christine closed her eyes. That Mr. Kody Brown fraudulently misrepresented contractual deals to his co-signing wives, misappropriated funds for personal purposes, and practiced coercive control in a joint business organization. A whisper ran through the courtroom. In plain language, the judge went on, Kody Brown manipulated family loyalty to obtain financial benefit by false pretenses. Robyn's mouth was clamped over, silent tears running. Christine sat rigid, face unexpressive. The judge went on, thus, the court decrees in favor of the plaintiffs, Christine Brown and Janelle Brown. A restitution of $2.5 million is to be shared between them, and sole ownership of the family property in Flagstaff is hereby awarded to the plaintiffs. Kody's attorney protested feebly, but the judge overruled him. The decision is final. The sound reverberated in the room like thunder. Reporters had stormed out of the building to be the first to deliver the news. Fans went wild online, spilling onto social media with celebration and shock. Robyn leaned over to Christine. I didn't do it for revenge, she breathed. Christine smiled softly. I know. You did it because it was the right thing. Kody remained frozen, his eyes blazing, not with anger this time, but with something hotter. Shame. He grumbled, you all believe you've won. But what about my children? My name? You've ruined everything. Christine gazed at him for the final time. No, Kody. You ruined it when you lost interest in who got hurt in your tale. Kody's jaw set. You used to love me. Christine's voice was gentle. I still do, but not enough to lie for you anymore. As the crowd started to disperse, the courtroom emptied slowly. Kody sat by himself once more, looking at the vacant seats where his wives used to sit. The gavel of the judge rang in his mind like an incessant heartbeat. He muttered in a whisper, television, not truth, and slapped his hand against his forehead, recognizing the irony. The cameras that had put him on high before were now documenting his fall. Christine stood outside, facing a group of reporters. Flashbulbs lit up as she muttered quietly, I did not arrive here for money. I arrived here for peace. For years, we declared to the world that we were one large family. But a family is not constructed on cameras, it is constructed on honesty. And today, honesty prevailed at last. The audience clapped. Some wept. Robyn remained at her side quietly, smiling through her tears. Janelle stepped up next. This wasn't about revenge. It was about breaking free. Sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to stop pretending you're okay. Her voice cracked on the last word, but that only made it more real. Hours later, as the courthouse emptied, Kody walked outside into the fading sunset. The reporters shouted questions, but he didn't answer. He just walked, past the cameras, past the crowd, alone. The world that had once gone about his bidding had progressed. The women he had once ruled over were stronger now than ever before. One news camera captured his last look at the courthouse steps, his eyes empty, his voice hardly above a whisper. I gave them everything. Everyone viewing, though, knew he hadn't. He'd taken everything from them, and now, destiny had simply leveled the playing field. Back home, Christine sat alone for a moment, staring down at her hands. For the first time, she didn't feel the burden of guilt or fear, only relief. She muttered to herself, "It's over." And yet, a part of her knew that this wasn't the end. Because truth doesn't just finish stories, it begins new ones. That evening, news stations everywhere erupted with headlines: Kody Brown loses court battle. Christine and Janelle win legal victory. Robyn breaks silence in emotional testimony. Moments of Christine's last words were going viral, repeatedly played. Fans inundated her social media with love, encouragement, and empowerment messages. But in one unspoken corner of the internet, a video appeared. A previously unseen recording titled merely "Confession." It was 2 weeks prior to the trial's start. Kody's voice, shaking, spoke, "If this ever comes out, they'll all know. But maybe it's time they did." And then the screen faded to black. The video went viral again, and the conversation was stoked. Fans around the globe were left guessing, was it a confession, or another act? As reality's credits rolled, Christine stepped into her new existence with humble strength. Robyn opted for silence, avoiding the public eye. And Kody, well, for the first time ever, his silence wasn't strength. It was punishment.